Welcome to this week's Light Warrior session featuring Marilys, who is sharing her soul plan blueprint method with us. She's coming at us straight from the UK, and this is a really incredible tool that she uses that shows us how our name influences our life path. I'm so excited for you to watch her process. So let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I am so excited. Today I have Marilys on our call, and this is just really fun. So can you just start by telling all of us where you are?
Hi, Blaze. Yes, so I'm in the UK. It's 9 p.m, so I've had my dinner. I'm all ready. I've got my sweatpants on underneath this dress, all ready to relax afterwards. So yeah, I'm here in the UK, and I just live just like central, middle, and nowhere exciting, really, to be honest. But
well, yeah, I think the UK sounds exciting when I'm in Alaska, and I don't know why, but it's just too exciting for me to do these calls. You know, I had one podcast interview with a guy who was in Thailand, and it just makes me happy because I also feel like the internet and social media has this kind of dark side, and but things like this are possible. And also you and I knowing each other, I think we met on Instagram.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's so fun. And this year, I actually made a big intention to really be calling in like other light workers and people who, you know, friends, like real friends that are on the same path that I'm on right now. And so many people have shown up, and, you know, I definitely consider you one of those people. So I'm excited that we've been connected.
Yeah, so I definitely echo that sentiment, honestly, Blaze, because I feel like I was trying to think today, and I was like, I'm sure it's Instagram that we met, but it was so long ago. I feel like it must have been years ago, because I can just remember your posts for ages, and I can remember your voice and your energy. So I was like, it must have been a few years that we connected for. And so it's really nice to be able to see you face to face and connect with you and, you know, feel your energy for real rather than like just, you know, Instagram time. So yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the reason that I'm doing all of these interviews this year is just, it's 2020. This has been such a challenging year. I don't know what it's been like in the UK, but it seems like worldwide there have been some massive challenges. And it's been such a struggle that I kept thinking, like, how are people that don't have any tools in their toolbox dealing with all the uncertainty and pain this year and loss? And so I really wanted to find people in the healing field, people that I know are just so dedicated to the work of helping other people, to share your ideas on how to get through this year. So I really want to hear, I'm obsessed with your soul plan charts. So we're going to get to that, and I'm really excited to hear more about that. But can I just hear a little bit more about maybe your experience this year and how it's been, and then also sort of parts of your story that led you to do the kind of spiritual work that you do today?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I feel for me this year was almost a breeze. And I don't want to say that to, you know, project or make anybody feel triggered or anything like that, but just the year before, 2019, was my Saturn return, and just so many crazy things happened that I almost felt like I was kind of prepared. I was emotionally ready for 2020. When it happened, I was just like, nothing else awful can really hit me anymore. I'm so open. I'm so ready. Just whatever, like, give it to me. It's fine. I'm already in this huge space of grief and loss and change. So all it can do is just kind of continue to add to that. So in a way, I kind of feel I was very blessed actually that I had that opportunity, because otherwise I think it would have been such a shock to the system. And I think, as with everybody else, all the plans that I had for this year just out the window, and completely something new has come in. And it's really funny because I never ever set, you know, like year intentions. I'm pretty laid back with things. I usually just go with the flow. But this year I thought, right, I'm going to have intentions. I'm going to follow them through. I'm going to achieve my goals. And one of my goals was to go traveling. And I literally got the passport photos to update my passport. And the week later we went on lockdown in the UK, and I was like, okay, I am not going traveling this year. And it's so funny because I'm really actually quite a nervous traveler. You know, I really don't like flying very much. So I really really rarely venture anywhere. And then one year I was like, I'm ready, off I go. I'm going to go and see the world. I'm going to visit my friend in New Zealand. And the universe was basically just saying, no, that idea isn't going to happen. Something else is happening. And so I think, as with many people, just that huge cycle of surrender to what's happening. And I think, as you say, we are so blessed to be in the space where we have some tools that we can use to help ourselves through and to deal with the stress or the pressure or the anxiety that comes up. Because even if you've been doing this work for 10, 20, 30 years, you can still experience anxiety. You can still feel stressed, you know. It's just how you react to it and respond to it that hopefully is, because of your experience, something you're able to work through a bit faster and a bit more deeply. So I definitely had a moment where I felt like, what am I going to do? How can I help people? What can I offer them? Because I've got this wealth of training behind me. What can I do to share that? So I initially started with some women's circles, and now I'm just diving straight into Soul Plan and into all the things that I have that I can offer on one-to-one basis, but also on a group basis, which is really nice. So did I answer everything?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit more of your like life before this year. And you don't need to divulge all your deep dark secrets, but I'm always really curious about what leads people to dive into this type of work. And I know for myself, it was going through trauma and getting to the other side of that, and then being like, I have this mission. And even before going through trauma, I always knew, like, I'm here on a mission. I have a job to do, but I don't know what it is. And then I went through some tough experiences, and it was like, oh, that's who I'm supposed to help. All those people that are me a couple steps behind, And so if you're willing to share any of that, like just what led you to this work, or if you always knew, or I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's nice. Actually, I think my favorite thing is listening to people's stories and kind of getting to know somebody at a deeper level to connect with them. So I think my story really starts back in 2012, which I think was an incredible year anyway, because of everything, with everybody freaking out about the end of the year and everything that was going to happen. And I actually moved back home, and I didn't realize it for about a year, but I was severely depressed, and I was unable to get out of bed until like 1 or 2 p.m. I wasn't really washing myself. I wasn't really brushing my teeth or my hair. I didn't wash my hair if I could for like weeks on end. I just wear a hat. And I was just treating myself really badly. I was having horrible nightmares, waking up at 4 a.m, just covered in sweat, panicking. And in every single dream, I was being killed or chased to be killed by someone. And it was just so stressful. I would wake up just feeling really tense and stressed, and it took me a while to admit what was wrong. And I think there was an element of denial, but there was also an element that I just didn't understand. I had always presumed that depression meant one thing, and it really means many different things. There's so many different layers to it. So I didn't actually go and see the doctor until a year later. And I can remember sitting there, and she said to me, oh, well, from everything you've described, these are all the symptoms of depression. And I was just really shocked, because I remember thinking, but I don't feel depressed. I don't think I am depressed. Surely not. Maybe I've just had, a mini breakdown or something. And she said, would you like to have some antidepressants and to go to a counseling group? And I was like, no, I don't need anything. I'm fine. But then a week later, I was back, because I just had such ups and downs of moods. One minute I was just crying. The next minute I was really angry. The next minute I was really tired. And I thought, okay, something needs to change. So I had to come into a space where I recognized that it wasn't a weakness to have been depressed, and it didn't mean I was a failure at life, but it just meant that something traumatic, something difficult had happened, and it was calling for my attention. It needed for me to recognize it, to heal it, so that I could move forwards and eventually obviously come into this work. So I took the antidepressants and I went to the counseling group, and I was so scared. I walked in and I was kind of hiding from everybody and sitting at the back. And I found, actually, through the presentations they gave each week, I realized, I'm ticking all the boxes here for depression. Okay, yeah, I've got all of that. And it took me a really long time to feel comfortable with that. Actually, I didn't tell any of my friends. I just told 2 friends, oh, the doctor said I'm not very well, so I'm just going to take some time out, because I just felt this huge shame around it. I just think depression, as with so many other things, is so stigmatized that I didn't feel like I could say to people, I'm depressed. I was embarrassed to admit it. And I also just didn't know how they'd react and what they may think or feel towards me, how they may view me differently. So I really shut away from people, and I just spent a lot of time going for counseling, going to these counseling groups, and then seeking spiritual healing. And it was kind of an accident. I happened to know of a mind, body, and spirit fair, went with my mum, and my mum happened to speak to a healer, and he said, oh, how's Marilys? And she said, oh, well, not too great at the moment. And he said, oh, we'll get her to come and see me. And he did like chakra healing and metaphysical, like loads of different stuff. But I can remember thinking, okay, well, I need something, because I'm only getting 6 free counseling sessions, which is amazing, but obviously I feel like I need more than that. And so I'd go for counseling, and then I'd have the sessions with him. And I can remember I would just lie on his couch, and he'd put the music on really loudly, and he'd like, clear my chakras and clear past lives and stuff like that. And he'd put crystals on me sometimes. And I can remember just in that space, I finally had space. I'd never made space before. And just all these downloads came to me. I had this huge awakening where I just realized so many different things about life and how we're created and why we're here. And it was just a massive awakening for me. And honestly, I'm so grateful for that now. I can look back now and feel that I have gratitude for what I went through. But in a way, it kind of turned from depression into a dark night of the soul. So I think I'd had depression for about 3 or 4 years, but I think that because I went for this healing and I just literally threw myself into it, it kind of sped up the process and instead woke me up. And I was just so keen to learn. I was buying all the books, all the oracle decks, I was reading everything by Louise Hay. I was taking everything I could in, and I was just like a sponge, I just wanted to know more. But I realized that was the only place I had ever felt safe, and I'd ever felt like I could be myself. And I thought, if I can just create that just for one person, I will feel like I have served a purpose. I've helped, I've kind of done my part in the puzzle of life. So yeah, that's how I started. And then I searched for about 2 years for a course. I looked at aromatherapy, I looked at anatomy and physiology, I looked into yoga, crystals. Literally, I tried for so many different courses, and they were all either full or I just didn't hear anything back. And I was like, okay, something's not happening here. I don't know what's happening, but it's just not right. So I'll just wait. And then about 2 years later, I just happened to be having a really difficult time at work. One of the chefs was really quite unpleasant towards me. And I went home and I was crying in my bed, and I just thought, no more. I need to stop. I need to do something. I need to take action. And so I Googled for life coaching courses near me, and I found one in London. And that's when a few months later I went, and Soul Plan was the first module, and it just blew my mind. Totally awakened me up in my intuition and just to so many amazing things. And I've just loved it ever since. I've been doing that for 5 years now. Now I teach it, and amongst all the other things that I'm also trained in and I do, but that has just always been the thing that saved me. It really showed me who I am, and that I do have value and something to offer, and how I could turn that into something that can actually help and serve and fulfill what I'm here for. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that, and I absolutely love sharing it with people.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I can definitely see why we're friends. And when you started to describe, and I got all the oracle decks and I read all the Louise Hay books, and I'm like, oh, me too, me too, me too. And, and I think that's really wonderful. What you were saying about, well, first of all, thank you for sharing about depression. And I'm really glad that you did, because what that brought up in my mind is shame. And, and that's, I feel like shame is possibly the absolute worst emotion that we can feel as humans. And it just blocks us from so much joy. And I think we just waste so much time and energy in that space. And, and I work a lot with addicts and people recovering from maybe sexual abuse and things like that. And again, like that shame can be the most difficult thing to kind of unlock and move through. And same with depression, with what you were saying, with the stigma that, I don't know who decided these stigmas, but it's really unfortunate. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And then also just with the soul plans and all of the work, I mean, it's beautiful. So I would love to dive in with the soul plan and tell us
Yeah,
what is that. You have a super fun YouTube channel, by the
thank
way.
you.
There are so many videos on like all the things I love. I said, you know, there's things on chakras and full moon rituals, and then a lot of soul plan information and more. So I would love for you to just dive in. I know you have something to share with us today, and I can't wait to see.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, I appreciate all that you say there. Yeah, definitely. So firstly, love having a YouTube channel. I love that I've been able to connect with you, and I've been watching some of your videos too, and they're just really moving and really inspiring. So thank you for that. But yes, so soul plan. Basically, in a nutshell, it is, what is your purpose for this lifetime? Who are you here to be? Just from your name. And this is my favorite thing. I see a lot of people saying, oh, you know, how to discover your purpose. And there's some beautiful ideas and courses out there. But I'm the kind of person, I like to know things for definite, and I like to know things in the most simple way so that I can then utilize them without having to like wade through. I'm really bad actually at seeing the details. The big picture I can see really easily, but the details, it's just not my thing, unless it's an outfit. But apart from that, just no. So I tend to need something really simple to show me. And this is what I love about soul plan, is it's very simple. So it's broken down into two aspects, your worldly and your spiritual. And they're broken down then into challenges, talents, goals, and then there's your soul destiny in the center. So it's really simple. If you're like, why is something an obstacle? Why am I struggling with something? It's most likely going to be in your challenges. So you can just look straight at that and think, this is where this is going wrong, or this is where I need to pay attention. This is what I need to heal. And you can move through it and turn it into a strength, because that's what we really want to do, is turn those challenges into a strength. So I love that aspect of it. And I also love that it shows your goals. So I know for a fact what my soul wanted to do as a goal on earth, like how it wanted to grow, what it wanted to share and achieve, which I just think is so empowering. Because even if you learned your soul plan and thought, actually, I've kind of changed what I want to do, at least you know what it was that you wanted to do. At least you know it's where your soul was guiding you to move, and you can always expand on that and change that, which I just think is so cool. So there are 22 energies in soul plan, and each of them has a symbol and a number, which is really nice, because if you're somebody who's quite visual and arty, you can connect with the symbol. And if you're somebody who's quite like logical, practical, then you can connect with the number side of it, which is cool. And each energy has its own meaning, and they all mean different things in different aspects of the chart. And basically, your soul chooses which of those 22 energies it wants to work with in this lifetime, and then that's put together through your name. So we just use the name. They don't need to know like where you're born or what time or what date or anything like that. It's just your name, and then we break that down into the chart and create that. So I'll show you an example if it works.
Okay, quick question with the
Yeah.
name. Is this then your maiden name? Because say like I was adopted and I have a hyphenated last name now, or people that get married and change their last name. This is all about your original OG name you came here with, right?
Yeah, it's actually both. So your birth chart is always your birth name as it is spelt. However, if you change your name, then you have what we call an overlay. So your birth name is always going to be the most dominant vibration, the most dominant chart that you have, but your overlay kind of filters in and it influences, or it expands upon, or it helps with a certain aspect. So let's say you had a very like sensitive, soft birth chart, then your overlay might bring in some resilience or some strength to help you through challenges, which is so cool. So actually it's both. Your birth name is the most important one, and that's what I always suggest to start with clients. Is I'll say to them, let's start with your birth name, and then we can come back and we can look at the overlay if you're married or if you've just changed your name, because I've had quite a few clients who've done that. But you can also then use it for business names. You can use it for relationship readings, comparing two or more people's charts to look at the relationship they have and the healing that might be coming through. And you can also use it, of course, for baby names. So if you're pregnant or you're about to have a child, then you can read what the child's energies will or are going to be with the name that you choose, which is really cool. So that's definitely something I'll be doing when I eventually have kids. So it's really just so flexible, which is again what I love about it, because there's just so many things that you can use it for, and it can just help with so many different aspects that I definitely geek out and I use it quite often.
Oh, fun. Okay, cool.
Let me just get this chart up for you. And let's hope it shares. Okay. Share screen. Okay, can you see that okay, Blaze? Yeah, awesome. Okay, fab. So this is an example of a soul plan chart. This is actually Whitney Houston's chart, and we kind of have a rule in soul plan that you only look at someone's chart if you have their permission, or if they've passed over, in which case they're not using the name, they're not that person anymore, so it's okay to look at their chart. So this is why I've chosen her, and also just because she has just a beautiful chart and she was a beautiful soul as well. So, and I think most people will have heard of her as well. Very few people won't have heard of her, so I thought everybody will probably know her name. And so as you can see, she's got this downward triangle for the worldly aspects and the upward triangle for the spiritual, and then her soul destiny in the center. So really fascinating chart. And what I love about soul plan is just it's always so accurate. Like there's never a time there isn't. You know, I had a client literally 2 days ago, and everything I was saying, she was like, oh my God, yes, that's me, that's so me. And I love that because it's so nice to reflect and confirm and bring clarity to that client. So it just brings you confidence. You know, if you're doubting yourself, if you're not sure about things, then you can come to your soul plan and it just reminds you of who you are, which I just love that so much. Okay, so let's look at Whitney's chart. So her worldly challenge is the energy of earth, emotions, and society. So it's a beautiful energy for connecting with other people. It's very mainstream, it's very grounded, it's very clairvoyant actually. And nearly everybody I've ever had for a reading is very psychic, or, you know, training to be a medium or something like that. Like they're very intuitive in that sense. But because it's a challenge, then what it means is perhaps she's having difficulty connecting within society, difficulty with emotions, unable to express her emotions, or overwhelmed by her emotions is more likely what she's experienced when she was here, and feeling just kind of everything's heavy, everything's overwhelming. It's quite often for people with 8s to just hate watching the news because they're just like, there's too much going on, I can't handle it, I'm too sensitive to it. And they're so connected to emotions, earth, and society. They just feel it so deeply. So they definitely will be the kind of person who's really passionate, you know, about climate change and things like that, but at the same time they can't watch the news because it just upsets them to hear about all the bad things that are going on in the world. It also has an element as a challenge of being kind of drawn to escapism, and we can see that she was drawn to that with her addictions and her substance abuse. And this is just, I think, because she was so overwhelmed with everything she was feeling and picking up and intuiting, and also just how she was connecting to earth as a whole, that she almost needed to move away from it. So it's not uncommon for people with this energy to feel like they don't fit in and they don't belong here, and they just want to escape from earth. So there can be many different ways to cope with that or to deal with that escapism. But in Whitney's case, obviously it was substance abuse. And then her worldly talents, the 11-2, these are 2 different energies, so we look at both. So we have the 11, which is the energy of assimilation, harmony, and structure, and the 2, which is the energy of wisdom and support. So basically it's bringing in this ability to understand and to create this structure, to organize all these feelings that she has going on. But they're both really good emotionally resilient energies, which again is going to help her pull out of that challenge, which is so important. And I think to a certain extent, you know, I think that challenge was kind of ever present for her, but at the same time she was able to connect with other people, she was able to put herself out into society, so she could, I suppose, kind of swing between 2. She could have it as a strength and she could have it as a challenge. So this talent is really about being a really brilliant mind, having a great structure, being able to expand on things. Tend to think of people with this energy as like a philosopher, or it can also be like a builder, an architect, but it's about high levels of truth, and it's about really having your own soul truth as well and following that. So definitely she had that. She had her own path that she followed, and sometimes people tried to kind of push her and sway her, but she always knew what it was she wanted to do, and she very much saw that through. And then the 2 is great. This is an empath energy. This is about really seeing things from a higher perspective, you know, that bird's eye view for things. And it's also a very good counseling energy. So it's really drawing people into your aura, connecting with them, and making them feel quite safe. So I can imagine that people felt like they could trust her, they could tell her things, especially because she technically is really emotionally intelligent. So when she's able to move through how overwhelming emotions are, then she probably was able to really give people deep insight, because this energy is fantastic at just like sorting the wheat from the chaff, getting straight to the core of things, which is so powerful. And I feel like she kind of did that as well with her music. You know, she very much got to the core of what the truth of it was, you know, the truth of love and heartbreak. So she really brought that through, which I think is just beautiful. There is an element of the polarity that comes through. So there are 7 polarities in Soul Plan, and the 11 and the 2 both have polarities. So this is a double polarity energy. So the 11 is the polarity of life to loss, and the 2 is the polarity of wisdom to folly. So it's kind of like learning from your mistakes and becoming resilient and recognizing you're not a failure. You just maybe need to come at it from a different angle, a different perspective, but also experiencing loss. So it's very common to have a lot of endings, a lot of losses, a lot of changes with the 11. And it's really asking you to recognize that even though there's an impermanence to life, truly what matters is infinite, will always last. And that is, of course, love, the soul, our connections to one another. So taking comfort in that and recognizing that an ending is really an opportunity for a new beginning. And then she has her worldly goal, which is the 12-3. This is again 2 energies. And the 12 is the energy of love and knowledge, which is just beautiful. It's a very expansive, motivated energy. It loves learning. And the 3 is the energy of expression. So it's technically a teaching vibration, but we do quite often see this energy coming up in actresses, actors, singers. So it could be that you have this too, Blaze, since you do your singing. And so this is basically about her loving learning things, loving being inspired by things, and then wanting to share that with other people. And I feel like for her, it was musically. So classically, 3s love writing or talking, but they do kind of have that acting and singing ability. I mean, Elvis Presley, for example, had this in his chart as well. So he definitely tuned into that expressive side. So this, for me, I feel like is that she was able to tune into the emotion of heartbreak, of love, of life, and really share that knowledge with the world, which is so cool. And I just get goosebumps when I think of that, because I feel like she really fulfilled her worldly goals. She shared that love and that knowledge that she had. And I mean, I've seen interviews with people who knew her, and she just was a very gentle, loving person. So I definitely think she connected with that and achieved that for sure. So then her spiritual challenge, this is actually about being very sensitive, very gentle, very ethereal. It's a very light energy, and it's also very abstract. So this energy really isn't of earth. So really her challenge is about feeling like she doesn't fit in, feeling like she doesn't belong. It can also be about having experienced some kind of trauma or difficulty, and that could really fuel her 8 challenge as well. So I feel like together these challenges could have been quite intense for her at some points, where she may have just felt like she really didn't want to be here. And the 5 is actually a very pioneering energy. It's the energy of spirit and freedom. So it's all about going out into the world, sharing what you're here to share, and really inspiring other people by being very articulate, assertive, and just sharing something really cool and new and different. So usually this actually shows up, for example, with scientists, or like people who are new age and are sharing. So if you meet somebody and they've like set up a new system or whatever, and then they probably got this energy, because it's very pioneering and it's very abstract. Like it does things that have never been done before, which is really cool. And she definitely did that. You know, she was very successful as a Black woman and ahead of her time in that sense. So I definitely think that even though this was a challenge, that sensitivity really, she turned this into a strength and was able to really pioneer in that era, which is so cool. And then her spiritual talents, this is the energy of power, peacemaker, and protection. And it's a beautiful energy. And I think this would be really powerful for her to help with her challenges, because this is very much about your presence being your power. I don't think anybody could have seen her live or watched her on TV, in a movie, or in her music videos without feeling her presence. But it's also about being a catalyst. So it's about helping other people to accelerate their own growth. And again, you can look at her music, look at the work that she left behind, and think, actually, yeah, she really did that. She was really able to help people through things and really move them beyond as this catalyst, which is very powerful. But really her presence was key here. So that's what she was all about, was sharing who she was in that really pioneering kind of different way, which is really cool. And then her spiritual goals are the same as her soul destiny, and they're actually her dominant vibration, which is when you have 4 or more of the same energy. And this is the energy of thought and creativity. So the symbol is meant to be like a spark of an idea, and then it like loops down and comes into the body, and you manifest it into the physical world. And again, she did that. She had so much creativity. She was able to come up with the most beautiful lyrics to share those. And even just her music videos and things like that, you know, she just shared a lot of her creativity. But I also feel like maybe her thoughts, you know, perhaps she overthought things. Maybe she was a bit critical of herself. And maybe at times she just really didn't believe in herself, because the six can become quite scattered. It can be what I call like a fizzy energy, where it's like, oh, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, I'm interested in this. And then it never completes things, it never gets things done. So she probably had to bring in a lot of focus to actually achieve her goals and to push herself to achieve her purpose in life, to be honest. But it's really about her stepping in and just being completely creative in all that she does. And I think she really demonstrated that, to be honest. I think, yeah, a beautiful chart and a beautiful woman who quite clearly went through everything she was meant to before she very sadly left the planet. But at the time, I guess that was exactly what her soul needed, because she'd completed her chart.
Wow, that's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for sharing the screen so we can see what this kind of looks like. That's really fascinating. And of course, I love Whitney Houston. I mean, who doesn't? Her music was so incredible, is so incredible. And what's funny, so I've been teaching voice lessons for years, and this week, for the very first time ever, one of my students chose a Whitney Houston song.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's so weird that you were, this was your choice. I had no idea. And I've had one of her songs stuck in my head all week, because I was, you know, one of my students said, I have a song, it's Whitney. And I'm like, are you sure about this? You know, okay, we're gonna have to work really hard, you know, but she's in that echelon of like, even great singers don't sing a Whitney Houston song, because you're never going to sound as good as her, you know?
Yeah. Wow, brave. But yeah, I love that synchronicity.
Yeah, really, really fun. Yeah, and I like hearing those different elements, and it does sound like her struggles kind of lined up with this. As far as we know, I mean, it's not like we knew her personally, but I always feel for really wealthy people who want to escape, because I think that, I mean, I can think of times in my life and my addiction where being broke really saved me in that moment. That doesn't save you ultimately. You need to heal and get help. But I mean, I've thought about that a few times with celebrities, you know, overdosing and things, where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, even me, who had like small, you know, local celeb status with my singing, even just in that little realm, I would be offered free drinks, drugs, tips, like anytime. It wasn't hard. Whereas someone else might have to seek those things out or pay for them themselves or whatever. And so I can only imagine on a Hollywood level, the struggle with that. And the access is just too easy, I think. So
Definitely,
anyway. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really, really interesting.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's fascinating. And it just really is quite powerful to be able to tune in, to connect in that space. And I just always feel really honored when I'm able to give someone a reading, because it's just beautiful to witness, even in that space of the reading, where they're just having aha moments and waking up to themselves and recognizing that they matter, they have a purpose. Because so many people, I think, come to me and they don't really know, or they need some kind of clarity or confidence or something like that. And it's just beautiful watching and witnessing as they hear about themselves and they're like reminded, and they're like, oh yeah, wait, no, I do have something, and I am here, and I do matter. So yeah, so I always love doing the readings.
Yeah, and I like that you said reminded, and you said something like this earlier when you were telling your personal story about being awakened. Both of those are all about you remembering who you are. It's not about becoming someone else. It's not about someone else telling you what you're supposed to do. It's having that guidance from a coach like you, or, you know, to remember. It's all about coming back to that. And as we heal and like let the fog kind of lift, we can start remembering. So I'd love to talk about my name for a minute.
Yeah.
Yes. We definitely, I mean, I can't wait. You're going to give me all the links to all your things, and I'm going to be like your first customer today, or message you right away. Like, when can we talk again? Because this is really fascinating to me. So Blaze is my given name. spelled like fire. And it was always such a weird name growing up. And I didn't get bullied about it at all. Like, people really think it's cool. And, but no one had ever heard it. And there's so many little things. Every time I meet somebody, Blaze, oh, blaze it up. Or, oh, do you do this? Or do you, and people just have these little things that they think of. And it's one of those names too, where people either always remember it or completely forget it because it's just a little out there. And so one fun story is I went on a singing tour around the US, and I stayed with this family, and they had a son named Blaze. And the mom, and it was spelled differently, Blaise. And she said that in France, that's a really common men's name, because there was a Saint Blaise in the Catholic Church or something who blessed the throats of everyone. And so she was just amazed that I was a singer, and there was like the saint about throats, and I had never heard of that. But the other thing that makes me really compelled to do a soul plan with you is that many years ago, I was doing some meditation, and I had this whole memory flash of my spirit. This is going to sound really weird. Probably not to you, probably to some people watching. But this memory of my spirit telling my dad while he was sleeping, like in a dream, coming to him and saying, you have to name me Blaze. That is the name I have to have for this life. And and I like got out of the meditation, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And my mom had told, I went and told her about that. And, she said, well, that was a big part of us naming you. She said, he woke me up in the middle of the night and said, we have to name her Blaze, him or her Blaze, whatever it is. So I've always been so curious of like trying to live up to my name my whole life, and being very resistant to ever take someone else's name as a last name even. Because I like being Blaze Bell, and it's just like, so I'm excited to dive into that with you at some point. I think that would be really fun and really fascinating.
Yeah, I would love that. I think that's amazing that you recognize and remember that from that meditation. I definitely think, for me, I really feel strongly that we do choose our name, because we obviously plan our life. None of this is a mistake, even though it might be really difficult and really tough at times. We choose this because we want to experience it, to grow and to evolve, and maybe to use it in the next life or to use it in this life, however it pans out. But I've often felt like, we definitely would plan it to the wire. Like that's the only time I think I probably was detailed in my life, was just before. And I was like, right, everything's sorted. So yeah, that's amazing that you have that. And it just really shows the power that we have on that soul level to kind of share that with our parents or with our guardians or whomever, what our desire is. Like for me, my name was misspelt on my birth certificate, so it's actually different. And I remember when I went and I trained in soul plan, I was like, wow, I do not resonate with that name. I don't resonate with those energies. And then as I got to know it more, I was like, oh God, yeah, I can definitely see myself in that. And I resonate more with those energies now, and I can kind of connect to that, which means I can connect to my chart more. So yeah, definitely, if your soul was ready to use the energies in your name, then that'll be fascinating to see what that brings up.
Yeah, absolutely. One more quick question about this. Can someone change their name to improve their life, or vice versa? I can't remember where I read this, but at some point years ago, I read somebody talking about something, and they said that they like got married, and then their life kind of changed its path, and they thought it was all based on changing their name. And then when they remarried or got divorced or whatever, it like things went well. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I would say 100%. So I've definitely noticed with clients who have changed their name, whether that's through marriage or just because they felt called to, it changes quite a lot. And it can take anywhere from 6 months to 6 years for the new energies to kind of sink in and filter into your life. And so I think often that's why sometimes, because it's traditionally women who change their name when they get married, they perhaps feel they don't feel like themselves anymore. There's like a loss of identity, and there quite literally is, because they've taken on their husband's surname, and therefore they've changed their energies. And very often when a woman has changed her name to match her husband's surname, they take on some of the energies of their husband, and therefore they probably take on some of the ancestral karma, if you like, as well. So I find that fascinating. And I think sometimes, if you find, let's say, for example, somebody gets married twice in their life and their first marriage is quite short, then it might also be that the energies just didn't suit them, didn't really help them to achieve what they're here to do. I've definitely seen some clients where the energies that came through in their married name were very alienating, and that experience was for them. They found that they felt very isolated and alone, and that they didn't have many friends. And yet when they remarried, the person's energies were more magnetic and more about groups of people and coming together, and they found that they had more friendships and they felt more connected. So actually you could definitely change your name purposefully to bring in the energies that you want to help you throughout your life and your purpose. So sometimes we do that anyway on a conscious level or a subconscious level. For example, I had a client who had changed her name at 21. She added a middle name and took off part of her first name. And it was fascinating to see the difference that had come through. And she just felt much more herself when she had that name. She just didn't resonate with her other name. This name she did, and you could really see how she'd embodied it and stepped into it. So I think actually, like, knowledge can be power in some ways, and I think especially when it comes to healing and self-development, if you know that there's this system that can help you, and if you know you can change that and adapt that to work for you, then definitely you can. Obviously what you're meant to experience, you will to a certain extent, but again, you have free will. And if you, I definitely feel like I don't want to change my name when I get married unless my husband has a great name because I really like the energies of my chart, and I just feel like it would have to be a fantastic chart or barely change it at all for me to change. So and also maybe I'll persuade him to change his name, because down with the patriarchy.
Oh my gosh, I'm just picturing you like on a dating app, or when some people are like, what's your sign, and you're like, I'm gonna need your given name and also any other name changes. I'll get back to you after I have printed out a few charts.
Yeah, honestly, like, it really does make a difference. And what's so funny is I don't remember any of my ex's middle names, so I can't even I wouldn't anyway, because as I say, I wouldn't do it without their permission, but I couldn't, even if I wanted to understand like relationship triggers, I can't remember the names to do that anyway. But that definitely can be a really powerful thing. I can definitely tell when I've had a relationship with someone and I'm like, oh, that has not worked, we probably have this energy, because you tend to have energies in common with people, especially in your family and your like relationships that you have romantically, because that's where you're going to grow and learn. So it could be like your challenge might be your mum or your dad's talent, for example. So they were able to help you turn that challenge into a strength, or vice versa. So it's really fascinating. I think I've totally gone off on a tangent here, but it's really fascinating how helpful it can be, and how you can just use it for so many different things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I'm completely fascinated. Like, I can't wait to learn more about it. And like I said, I will make sure everyone has links to where they can find you. But I know you're on Instagram and YouTube. Are there other places, website or something too?
Yeah, I have more of a link to a site. I haven't really got a website at the moment because I just changed it up. I thought I'd make it more accessible to people. So it's just got straight on links to book with all the things I offer. So you can just easily do that, which is good. But I would say definitely come find me on YouTube just to check you like my energy, just to find out a bit more information about what I offer, just because I think it's nice to tune in and feel connected to someone when you book in, right? So you feel like you can trust them and you're ready for them to share what they know, because you're more likely to receive and heal if you're kind of in that space of trust, aren't you? So you're very welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to have our session together. It's going to be so fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Let's continue this conversation in the comments, and for more healing resources, please visit blazebell.com. You are worthy, you are loved, and I am so, so grateful for you. See you next time.